Sebastian Giovinco is currently playing for Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. Prior to this, he had stints at Juventus, Toronto FC, and Parma, and opinions on him differ in each of those clubs' fan bases. Parma fans believed that he was the next big thing for Italy. He was Parma's main man in his 2-year stint at the club. However, Juventus fans saw him as a major disappointment. They saw what he was capable of at Parma, but sadly he was never able to replicate that form for them. Toronto fans, however, think that he was the best player to have ever played in Major League Soccer, and quite frankly, I kinda do agree with them. So welcome to UW Football, and today we'll be talking about just how good is Sebastian Giovinco. In his 10-year stint at Juventus' academy, he shined at every level, so much so that he was made part of the first-team squad at the young age of 19. He made his debut against Bologna and assisted a goal for David Trezeguet. Early signs were good. Juventus fans believed that he was going to be the heir to their legendary skipper Alessandro Del Piero. But with Juventus gaining promotion back to Serie A host of big-name players were expected to come in. So it was deemed best for Sebastian Giovinco to go out on loan. So he joined Empoli, and in his 1 year there, he scored 6 goals in 35 games for them. Upon his return, he was mostly used as a bench player, but whenever he played, he was good. His assist numbers were high, and he had scored 4 goals for Juventus, so many believe that this lack of game time is hindering Giovinco's development. So he went out on loan to Parma, who then proceeded to buy 50% of his rights off of Juventus for €3 million. In his 2-year stint at Parma, he was only 23 when he joined them. He ripped Serie A apart. He scored 23 goals and provided 22 assists for a mid-table club in Italy, which basically meant that it was time for Juventus to buy him back. Alessandro Del Piero was now gone, and it was time for Giovinco to go in and fill in his boots. So Juventus paid Parma €11 million to buy back the 50% of his rights that they had previously sold to them. His first season back with Juventus was very good, which was impressive because then manager Antonio Conte wasn't a fan of him. He gave him number 12 instead of Del Piero's vacated number 10, and Giovinco was always in and out of his side. He contributed to 18 goals in just 2,700 minutes in his first season with Juventus. The reasoning for his lack of game time was because Antonio Conte prefers his forward players to be either really fast or be very powerful, and Giovinco was neither of them. He was more of a technical player. This connection was not working, so much so that Conte did not feature him in 21 of the 38 Serie A games the following season. Sebastian Giovinco's stock had completely fallen off a cliff. In the limited minutes that he was playing, he was still contributing to a goal every 110 minutes, which again is extremely impressive. This lack of minutes continued on for another 6 months, so Giovinco in January of 2015 said his goodbyes to Juventus. Toronto FC was his new home, and his new club felt like they had made a coup when they signed him. They believed that if Sebastian Giovinco could replicate his form at Parma, then Toronto FC can win the MLS Cup. The trust that they showed in him can be seen by the fact that they offered him a salary of $7 million, which was the highest for any Italian footballer ever, and Giovinco did repay them. In his first season, he was directly involved in 35 goals in just 31 games in the regular season. That year, he won both the Golden Boot and the top assist provider. But this form did not continue over to the playoffs, and Toronto was knocked in the first round. So the following season, Giovinco was out for blood. Again, he outperformed everyone. 31 goal involvements in 28 games in the regular season, and then again 6 in 6 playoff games. But once again, Toronto FC did not win the MLS Cup. They were beaten in the final on penalties. Maybe third time lucky. Giovinco had a stop-start season. He was injured on 4 different occasions and his numbers dropped. He still was directly involved in 22 goals in 25 games, but this was a 9-goal drop-off from the previous season. But this time around, he had much better players around him, so his injuries did not matter. Toronto FC won the MLS Cup with a 2-0 win over Seattle Sounders, a final in which Sebastian Giovinco assisted a goal. Next year was Giovinco's final one for Toronto FC, and that year Toronto were poor. They did not even make it to the playoffs, but Giovinco still performed for them. 21 goal involvements in 28 games, and in the CONCACAF Champions League, he was a star for them. Again, 8 goal involvements in 8 games as Toronto FC reached the final, which they lost to Chivas Guadalajara. Now with his contract running out, Giovinco was sold to Saudi Arabian giants Al Hilal, where he has been less impressive. 15 goal involvements in 29 games, and he currently is having his worst goal return over 90 minutes in his entire career. But he has become the first player to score in AFC Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League, and the UEFA Champions League, and is set to win a League and Champions League double this season. And on top of that, he's also getting paid $11.5 million, so yeah, he is doing alright. So let's answer the question, how good was Sebastian Giovinco? I would say that he was a top player for teams outside the elite clubs, which is why he smashed it at Parma and then again in a much weaker league with Toronto FC. And who knows, he could have even made it at Juventus if there was some other manager other than Antonio Conte. So yeah, this was a video on how good was Sebastian Giovinco. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I will see you soon.